2020 was a rewarding year from the perspective that actually we were able to help many people during the pandemic to find the jobs and the roles they really wanted, right? So that feels rewarding, and I think that's something that we can be proud of in the current conditions. But then looking at in more depth, I would say in 2020, what would you say changed for our clients, senior executives, and what didn't change?
Well, thank you, Tomasz. And I'm speaking, of course, in the context of Europe and the US, because the drivers were fairly similar. First of all, it is the industrial changes that are going on. So the shift to online retail, for example, or the reduction in hotels, this is driving a lot of people to reflect on their career opportunities. And as I said, our Clarity program is ideal for helping people find their fit. But I think another thing that's important is in the past, unemployment has been a very high driver for our clientele, or the risk of unemployment. I'd say that's actually gone down, believe it or not, in 2020. And it suggests to me that people are becoming more proactive about managing their careers going forward. We also see this in the income demographics of our incoming clients that have shifted markedly upward. In other words, the portion who earned more than 200,000 euros or dollars increased to about 40% of our clientele in 2020, which is a significant increase. Another 49% earned between 100 and 200,000 euros or dollars. So those two groups alone make up 89% of our clientele.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, because I would really say it's a mixed bag from the industry perspective, right? Because we all know the industries that are struggling: hospitality, aviation, oil and gas, traditional automotive, right? But that's also made a big shift to where our clients actually landed last year, which was healthcare, technology, financial services, consulting, food, right? So e-commerce, I should say. So from that perspective, I think that was the most dramatic change. I think the interesting thing for me that didn't change was actually our 90% success rate, right? That still holds true despite of the pandemic. And then the average time for our clients to land, which was still between 25, 30 weeks on average, right? Which is pretty good result in the current in the pandemic conditions.
Absolutely. And I always like to reflect, when you get hundreds of people coming through the front door, you tend to see patterns. And I'll show this in a little graphic, but essentially you get your sense of risk on the one hand, and then your reason to work. So some people obviously have an economic requirement. They need to earn money right now, and they feel strongly at risk. Those people feel a lot of urgency. And then you've got people who feel less risk, and maybe they're bored, or maybe they're looking for that advancement that has so far eluded them. And maybe they want more pleasure or quality of life in their work. So that's a totally different spectrum. And what I think we're seeing is more and more people who are realizing that the pressure they have at work is not necessary. They could actually have a better working life if they would be proactive about managing their career. So I see a shift in both the income and the, let's call it the psychographics of our clientele, which I think is very healthy actually for them, not to mention for us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I would describe it, what you just said, with one line, that our clients want to win more than they're afraid to lose. And that's why they choose to actually take a more proactive approach to their career. So totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, if you think about the psychographics, we use DISC, as you know, and DISC describes dominance and a couple of other characteristics that I think drive people who are more dominant, people who are more influencing, are more comfortable stepping out of their secure little niche and promoting themselves. And as a result, they represent a relatively large share of our incoming clients. And that's good, because we can help those people. If they're willing to promote themselves, we can tell them how.
Exactly. And then, so thank you for reflecting a little bit on the last year, Peter. Now let's shift the gears and look at the current year, 2021. What is your projection for this year?
Well, I think obviously we're all concerned about the pandemic and getting a grip on that. As far as I can see, it looks like the number of cases and deaths are actually increasing both in the EU and in the US as you and I speak. And that's a terrible shame. So I think we will get a grip on that. It's much later than it should be. So then let's turn to the macroeconomic equation. On the one hand, I think we can count on money being relatively available. If you look at the accommodative posture of the Federal Reserve in the United States or the Euro Bank in Europe, both of them have very low interest rates, to some extent negative interest rates. So I don't think inflation is going to be a risk in 21, particularly, at least not in the so-called developed world. The other thing that's happening is the EU has approved this structural fund of 750 billion to help support businesses to overcome the effects of COVID. You'll see that money flowing in and essentially replacing normal economic activity, but allowing people to pay payroll and grow their businesses and recover. And in the United States, obviously, there's the $1.9 trillion proposal from President Biden at the moment that will probably come through Congress in some form and will do a lot of a similar nature to stimulate the economy. And then there's some really interesting shifts. Nobody knows how far he will get, but President Biden promoted a whole list of environmental focused executive orders in the last week or so. For example, just to give you one example, the idea is to replace the entire fleet of delivery vehicles for the US postal system with electric vehicles to reduce emissions in months. So I think there are many, many intertwined effects that are basically positive from a macroeconomic point of view.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Peter, obviously we should expect economy rebound, right? With all the investment now going from government or from European Union from that perspective. But also looking at the market right now, I must say we see the rebound in the executive job market, because after Q4, which was more about cost cutting, hire freeze, now the new budgets are opening and companies are starting to recruit much more actively right now. Also, some people are leaving, cashing their bonuses. So all of those drivers actually are helping our clients right now to launch much faster than maybe it was few months or few weeks ago. So from that perspective, I think the forecast is positive, right? It should help our clients and executives to find their role faster than maybe some time ago.
Absolutely. Right? The executive market's been pretty alive even in 2020, as we both know, but looking ahead, you and I have both had crisis management experience over the last 30 years or so, Tomasz. And I think we realize that the kind of management skill and capacity to manage a consolidated business that is moving smoothly, on a gentle trajectory, that's one set of skills. But the set of skills required to manage in a crisis and to manage these plate tectonic changes in industrial demand or consumer demand, that's a totally different skill set. So we see many companies actually changing their management to fit the circumstances. And that means opportunity in the executive ranks, no question about it.
Yeah, now opportunity for strong leaders, right? To step in and take the challenge that is waiting for them. And, I always say to our clients, the dream job will not wait for you. So it's better to start now, because then your chances of actually finding something that you love and want to do, it's much greater. So it was a pleasure talking to you, Peter. Thank you for all the insights you shared with us today. And I would like to wish you all the best in the coming years, good health, and let's have another prosperous and good year going forward.
Thank you very much, Tomasz. All the best to you and Europe. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.